They couldn't have adapted that quickly.
There is logic in what he says.
Okay.
Welcome, technological and biological distinctivenesses, to the 99th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 1st of April 2015 and featuring The Best of Both Worlds by Michael Piller. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello. I'm not closing the door today.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Greetings.
And I didn't get the chance to ask, but I do not think we have an Aaron.
No, Aaron is in the middle of, I guess, what you could call a work week from hell, and is fairly wiped at the moment and napping.
Yeah, Easter week, it's not going to be any easier than Christmas.
It's not that. It's the lack of days off her job is giving her.
So
They're doing one of those things where they gave her a day off at the beginning of last week and at the end of this week.
Of course.
And basically 12 full days of work in between those. I'm out about that, more or less. So she came home today. She was fairly wiped, and we had to go do some errands. So by the time we got done, she basically just sat on the computer a bit and went to bed like an hour ago.
Fair enough.
Can't blame her. Blame her bosses.
Right. I'm pretty sure we have news, and I'm pretty sure it's been vetted for what day it is.
Oh yeah. I've double checked. I compiled the news today, and I'm pretty sure all of it is actually legit. So, the news.
I know we had quite a bit of news when I was looking on Sunday, so.
Yeah, I may have abridged some of it, but we've got 5 solid articles, or we've got 1 article for each of us. And some of them are combinations of multiple articles. So the first one I'm actually categorized in birthdays, and that is a belated happy 10th anniversary for New Who, which actually happened the day after our last podcast. Yes, it was almost a week ago now, on March 26th, 2005, that the episode Rose first aired on BBC One, featuring Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper, which heralded the beginning of the new Doctor Who era. Since then, of course, we have now gone through 4 Doctors, where we're on our 4th, and I didn't even think about counting all the companions. Quite a few.
It's also arguable who does and doesn't count. So you could be counting until doomsday.
Easily a dozen, possibly a full score. I think that's the best way to put it.
By the way, while we're doing birthdays, I just happened to see this. Apparently, it's Sidney Newman's birthday, belated, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. He was. He would have been 98. He would have been 98 today, but he passed at the age of 80. For those that don't know, Sidney Newman was the BBC head of drama in 1963, and the person who pretty much started the idea for Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was the concept man. I wouldn't say he was the execution, because I will lay that on the shoulders.
Right, that's why I held myself back from saying creator, but he's the one who got it starting.
Mm-hmm. And of course, mentioning the 10-year anniversary of New Who, that means, we've seen, of course, the return of many of the classic Doctor Who villains, including the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Sontarans, the Macra, the Autons,
Silurians.
the Silurians,
Did you mention the Ice Warriors?
the Ice Warriors. Thank you. I knew I was missing one.
Ice Warriors, yes.
All over the
Yes.
course of the last 10 years. It was a huge, large celebration, especially at the Doctor Who Experience, which had a very special guest star for its 10th anniversary. Peter Capaldi himself was at the Doctor Who Experience in Cardiff.
Was he
Cutting
there
up
as a
a
fan or as a doctor?
What?
Was he there as a fan or as a doctor?
He was there in Doctor mode. He did a Q&A with a bunch of kids who were at the experience as the Doctor. They were asking questions of the Doctor, like, which is your favorite face? That kind of thing. And and he answered as the Doctor. He also cut up a TARDIS-shaped birthday cake. And they had a massive celebration at the Doctor Who Experience. As you know, Capaldi has been very big recently in the Doctor Who Experience. He did their trailer for it I think we showed that last week. Of him introducing all the different TARDIS console rooms they have at the Experience. And he's apparently making, the occasional guest appearances there just whenever he feels like it. Well, I'm not filming today,
no one's gonna
so
kick him
I'm
out if he does.
I don't think they'd kick out any of the Doctors if they just randomly show up at the Experience. Okay, maybe Colin Baker, but
I was gonna say if Colin Baker started locking people in and just showing his episodes, they might kick him out.
Well, the thing is, they kind of have to, because Colin Baker would just move into the Experience and wouldn't leave.
He'd put the whole facility on lockdown. Please don't try to leave.
They would need Big Finish to come and coax him out.
Colin,
Okay,
we have
so
no episode for you. Oh, I'm leaving now.
If you are in the vicinity of Cardiff or can get there for a holiday, it is actually highly recommended that you actually go to the Doctor Who Experience, and you might, just might, be able to catch Peter Capaldi there.
Sneaking around, as usual.
And how long does that last?
As far as I know, it's an ongoing event.
The Doctor Who Experience
they have
is
it announced.
on and off again thing.
Yeah, they occasionally close it down to update the sets and stuff. Or, they close it down if they have to use particular portions of it for filming. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the time, it's pretty much in operation whenever they don't need the stuff.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I was worried there was, a pressure to go right now.
No.
Not particularly, but when do you actually have a random chance of meeting a doctor there,
Mm-hmm. So, why don't we move on?
Okay. All right. So is that all your news?
That's his 3 in 1, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then it's my turn. The BBC has announced that Maisie Williams, who is most known for playing Arya Stark in Game of Thrones, will be guest starring in upcoming episodes of Doctor Who in the upcoming season. It has also been revealed that 2 episode titles have been announced for the upcoming season. The first is The Girl Who Died, written by Jamie Matheson and Stephen Moffat. And the second episode is The Woman Who Lived by Catherine Tregenna. Catherine Tregenna wrote 4 episodes of Torchwood, Out of Time, Meet, MEAT, Adam, and Captain Jack Harkness, which was nominated for the 2008 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form.
I remember Meet. Meet was creepy.
Yeah.
I can't hear those titles and think of anything other than the Series 7 Clara plot.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of wondering what's going through their minds. It's offset by the fact that it's 2 separate authors.
Maybe that's how Moffat's. It's a director, for one of the directors from the main director from Series 8 plus Moffat.
Yep. And
Yeah.
also,
no, Jamie Matheson wrote Mummy on the Orient and Flatline.
Oh, then maybe I'm mixing up Jamie
Flatline.
Matheson and someone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and as we
So,
recall,
you know,
we liked Mummy and we didn't like Flatline, so this could be a hit or miss.
We liked Flatline. I thought we liked Flatline.
I liked
Flatline was
Flatline. Everyone
alright.
else was kind of ambivalent on it.
Hmm.
But
It had really
Mummy
good
got
moments, and the rest of it was kind of middle of the road.
yeah. So I'm kind of wondering where that's going to go. Obvious, the fact that Stephen Moffat's a co-writer means that there's going to be a
Moffat's
heavy
introducing a new
portion of
companion. The new companion is going to be a girl that keeps dying.
Let's hope not, because otherwise
palm.
he's just making Clara again.
Which is a further sign that he really needs to retire.
I think this is the second Game of Thrones actor that's going to be in here this year, isn't it?
At least the
Yes.
I
I'm
think they
trying to
announced
remember who the other one was, but since I don't watch the TV show, I don't know the actors very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the male characters from Game of Thrones, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, yeah, but that was probably for a previous filming block, so they're not going to be acting together.
See, they're trying not to leak the fact that the Doctor is actually just going to show up in the Game of Thrones setting, pop up into TARDIS in the middle of a Game of Thrones episode.
So he's going to show up, kick
Right.
George R.R. Martin in the dick, and set everything right. In the Game of Thrones universe.
Just this once. Everybody lives. Martin, no.
You, stop inbreeding.
Yes. It's creepy.
I'm actually seeing this. I want to write this fiction now. I'm pretty sure it's out there, but I want to write it myself. The thing is, I know jack about Game of Thrones, so I'll have to watch it and then write it. Oh God!
I've only read the first book. I'm waiting until I can come across the second one at a thrift store.
All right.
I do not know Game of Thrones myself.
Yeah. I'm busy enough as is.
I've been resisting Game of Thrones like the plague because everybody was shoving it in my face about a year ago.
That's why it took me so long to even read the first book.
But they've let up now, and I've heard some of the actors in there are like people I know and respect. Like Alexander Siddig is going to be in there. He was Dr. Bashir on Deep Space Nine. So it's like, I actually like his acting. I'm going to have to watch now, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the only name, so. All right, I think we've covered that little piece of Series 9 news. So moving on, Matt.
All right, so on to my article. So a couple of days ago, we mentioned the fact that John Nathan Turner was apparently up for having his name stapled onto a bus. A little update on that. Apparently, he and about 15 other names were finally picked, and yes, he is officially getting his name on a bus. It's going to be a bus made by the city of Brighton and Hove, and these buses will be running on the Route 12. This route travels between Sussex and Sussex Heritage Coach. I'm totally butchering this now. Sussex Heritage Coast towards Eastbourne. The buses will come with a host of new features, including low-emission Euro 6 engines, free Wi-Fi, upper deck table with USB charge points, softer seating, talking buses with next stop information, and real-time tracking of bus locations. So fancy,
that means that
fancy.
you can check so that you're like updated to the second when the buses will arrive and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. If you're wondering which bus is John Nathan Turner's, I'd suggesting look for the one that's painted in the most flamboyant tropical colors ever.
Oh no, I was going to make a randomizer joke, but JNT got rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, JNT was known for his tropical shirts, so.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were
I don't
talking
think
about
I've ever
his
seen him in a
decisions
non-bright
when
shirt.
making doctor costumes.
No,
No, not
yeah,
just
if you
Doctor
look at most
costumes.
of his
He's very
interview
80s.
pieces, he's wearing these loud tropical shirts. It was like getting interviewed by Weird Al.
Yeah,
Or
he was
getting an
very
interview from
80s.
I think
So-
that makes it my turn to talk about Big Finish, and we've got a bit of Big Finish today. First off, and the biggest one, Big Finish gets its largest license extension to date. The Big Finish license for Classic Who has been extended to 2020. Unfortunately, looking at this article, I had yet to see the words New Who, Ninth Doctor, or Eccleston, but I'm sure they're coming.
I'm sure they're working on it. I think they're probably going to be working on establishing a separate license for New Who.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I know they want to.
I think they're going to
Because-
start with the Kate Stewart stuff, go on to try and get the Torchwood guys on, to back them up, and then start actually going into New Who after that.
Yep. Yeah.
Other news. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I was just going to say, yeah, that seems to be a nice way to segue into it. Just like 1 foot in the waiting pool at a time. Once they
Yeah.
get the unit and Torchwood stuff that they can basically show to the BBC and go, hey, look, this is actually profitable.
Right.
They'll and it's not they wanted to be very careful when the license first came out so that Big Finish didn't actually make any productions that directly conflicted with what they were doing.
Right.
But I'm thinking at this
But
point,
they're not
it's
making
probably
Torchwood, so they could
yeah.
even.
I'm pretty sure it's safe at this point to make a 9th or 10th Doctor audio drama.
You would think so.
10th Doctor might still compete with the show. I feel like that if they actually took that idea for the Rose spin-off and actually made it into a line, it would both be profitable without actually competing with any of what BBC is doing.
I think they could probably do 10th Doctor by now. I mean, the only time that we're getting any 10th Doctor stuff that's canonical is specials now. I would stay away from 11th Doctor.
I just mean as him being the most popular Doctor in the past 30 years might compete with Moffat's show.
I'm not talking about compete. I'm talking about conflicting. They don't want Big Finish to say something and the BBC to say something else.
Oh, okay. Got you. I thought you meant in terms of drawing the audience away.
But
okay.
I'm pretty sure any 10th Doctor stuff can be considered historical now. I would stay away from the 11th Doctor stuff until Moffat leaves, because he can still kind of go back and touch on that stuff.
In other Big Finish news, a new 8th Doctor miniseries has been announced, Doom Coalition, with the companion Liv Chenka. I'm honestly not familiar with her, if she's a current companion or a new one. Honestly, not that certain.
No,
and
she's
they're fighting a new foe known only as the 11. So whether or not they're fighting against Stephen Moffat, we don't know. But
you see, they won't actually reveal the 11 until later in the series, and it turns out that he's actually fighting Matt Smith.
yes,
Wow.
that's how they're bringing in New Who.
Little do we know that the 8th Doctor is actually working for the Church of the Silence.
Yeah.
And it all winds up on Trenzalore.
This is another series that's going to be released in box sets, so similar to something like Dark Eyes or the like.
Mm-hmm.
And our final.
That'd actually be pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
If
But
the whole thing finds up that he's working for the Church of the Silence, and the final episode is basically him on the other side of the situation on Trenzalore, that would be pretty fucked up. I don't think they'll do it, but it would have been interesting.
And our last piece of Big Finish news is that several new novel adaptations have been announced. 5, in fact. which are Theater of War, written by Justin Richards, Seventh Doctor. I'm assuming most of these are Seventh Doctor. I'll say otherwise if I see otherwise. All Consuming Fire, which was originally written by Andy Lane and is being adapted by Guy Adams. And that doesn't say what doctor. There is Nightshade, which was originally written by Mark Gatiss and is being adapted by Kyle Sikora. And that is, so 7. And then there is Original Sin, originally written by Andy Lane, being adapted by John Dorney. They will announce another release at a later date, so we know that they're definitely going to be continuing these. Apparently, the first 6 were popular enough that these are going to keep happening until they've adapted everything that they can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, fans of the New Adventures have plenty to look forward to.
All right. There was plenty of other news out there, but a lot of it, aired today, and I could not actually confirm some of it.
Yeah,
And
like
outright,
the article I found about the Force being proven, I'm pretty sure that's going to be debunked tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually saw news somewhere that both Tennant and Eccleston had signed to do audio dramas, and I'm pretty sure those were jokes.
Yeah.
Both the previous Spider-Man movie Spider-Men are coming back to do the next movie.
Now, the news that today is the first issue of the 9th Doctor comic book is probably not false, just because we've known it was coming around now for the past year.
That's actually confirmed. And that'd be a pretty mundane April Fool's, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, main business then?
Yeah. There were some other rumors. Apparently, there was a rumor earlier that Lord British had bought one of the upcoming superhero MMOs.
Mm-hmm.
That was an April Fool's.
What's a superhero?
Ha ha.
Facepalm.
Try to live in today's society and not know who a superhero is. Apparently, you don't watch the CW. By the way, as an aside note, The Flash was very interesting this week. On our completely side news, they had a special guest star of Mark Hamill.
Which last I heard, the writers were trying to get him to be fully integrated into the show as a recurring character.
Well, he basically was playing a character that he originally played in the original 1990s Flash TV
I heard,
series,
yeah.
The Trickster.
Now, here's a question: Did he get to come face to face with 90s Flash in prison?
Yes, he did.
Nice.
He actually took him hostage.
For those in the audience who might not be aware of what I'm talking about, the actor that plays Barry Allen's father played the Flash in the 90s.
Yes, that's right. The Flash's father was the Flash.
Grandfather paradox? No, this is a father paradox.
This is just an actor paradox. But yeah, he took them hostage, so there was some close-up scenes there. And the thing is, if you stopped and you listened to Mark Hamill doing his trickster dialogue, every now and then he'd say a line, and you could tell he was giving it a Joker flair.
I've been, ever since I heard he was coming to the Flash, I've been hoping that he takes at least a full 10-second moment and goes all out Joker on it.
He didn't go all out Joker. There were just some lines that the way he presented the lines was obviously he was doing his Joker voice in a different pitch.
Which the fact that he had retired from voice acting to begin with is kind of a good reason why
he hasn't retired from voice acting. He just retired from acting as the Joker.
He retired from the Joker because the laugh was destroying his story.
Yeah, the laugh was killing him. And that's understandable. That laugh, while, absolutely amazing. I used to be able to do a fairly good Joker impression. I could never do the laugh. I tried, and my voice would just die on it. My voice went, no, fuck that, not going there. So that was interesting. I did not watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet this week. And of course, Arrow aired earlier tonight, and I missed it. But I'm not expecting any big special guest stars like Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
Walking Dead also had its season finale this week.
Just a random comment on Arrow. This is not this week, but this is, well, I don't know if you'd consider it a spoiler for last week or not. 10-second spoiler bump. I don't know. I don't like to count to 10 because I count too fast. But I was surprised the wedding was not interrupted, because when the CW was making such a big point of talking about celebrating the wedding, I'm like, oh my god, there's going to be a bomb in the middle of the wedding. It's a superhero wedding. Obviously, no one's going to actually get married, but they actually followed through with it, which was a shock.
Yeah, it was the honeymoon that got interrupted.
I'm not sure if that might be one of the first superhero weddings to go through on the first try.
I don't know. It wasn't really a superhero wedding.
Bill?
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
I think they were married before they became superheroes.
No, they weren't.
No, they were
They
not.
weren't?
No.
Oh.
Nope.
That's actually the first I heard of that.
They're engaged.
Nope. When
Did not know that.
when the Fantastic Four first premiered, it was Reed Richards and Sue Storm. It was she didn't become Sue Richards, I think, until the late 70s, early 80s.
You know, I always
that.
just assumed that they were married and she didn't take his name.
No.
Nope.
They were never married originally, ever, in any version.
Because she almost left Reed for Namor the Submariner.
A couple of times.
True.
Well, that's because Reed has that unfortunate ability to get distracted by work. Of course, I much prefer his Venture Brothers version of him, Mr. Impossible, as played by Stephen Colbert. Yes, that Stephen Colbert.
There's more than one?
I'm sure.
Probably.
Think about how many Jon Stewarts there are.
Way too many. I'm surprised he didn't change his name when he got into show business.
He did. That's how he changed it to Jon Stewart. Originally, he had a Jewish name.
I would have stuck with the Jewish name.
I feel like the producers probably would not have allowed his name to be put on the show if that were the case.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you look up Jon Stewart and you hit a disambiguation page, so, you know.
But I think his is spelled differently.
Let's see, anything else that happened in TV news this week? I don't think so.
Not TV, but movie related. Robert Zadar died recently. I want to say in the last 2-3 days. Most of you guys might not remember him, but I know him from a slew of movies. He's apparently done, since like the early 70s, he's apparently done about 107 movies.
Wow.
The man has always kept himself busy. He was actually going to be in the new sequel to Samurai Cop, but apparently that's going to have to be rewritten now.
Well, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know who else died? Cynthia Lennon. John Lennon's first wife.
Oh.
She kind of got the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, she died of cancer. You know, another victim of the that. Side news is that the BBC has cleared Jeremy Clarkson to do his live tour shows. that were which were postponed when he got suspended. They're being rebranded as Clarkson, Hammond, and May. But
Instead of Top Gear.
Yeah. But that's going to be his last hurrah. I actually wish I could be a fly on the wall at one of those shows, because I bet there's going to be an entire torrent aimed against the BBC in one of them. Because this is Clarkson, and he is a bit of a loudmouth.
Yes, he does have a tendency to be so. He's obviously not going to be very quiet at all, or much less subtle about his current anger.
Yeah. No news yet on whether Hammond and May are going to go through with my predictions and actually quit the show as well. The producer that worked with Clarkson since 2002 to revive the show is staying with Top Gear and not going with Clarkson, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he might be trying to pull something, but I'm not sure that it'll be worth their time or money.
I'm just going to bide my time.
But yeah, we'll see
what happens there. Like I said, this is already going to be financially catastrophic for the BBC.
Pretty much.
I'm just hoping that they don't do the stupid and take it out on the other shows, which will cause them to lose ratings and just start a downward spiral that will, kill the BBC. Because that would be bad, because then we wouldn't get any more Doctor Who unless somebody else was able to purchase the license from them.
I would think that it would be popular enough that people would purchase it if it came to that, but that'd be a bridge we cross if we ever get to that bridge.
That'd be interesting if the BBC collapsed and the BBC purchased the serial licenses to make more shows, or the Big Finish. That'd be kind of interesting.
If anyone had the money and would have
budget,
the quick,
but it's interesting.
Yeah, if anyone had the interest and the quick fingers to go jumping for it probably would be them. Not that they have a channel or anything.
That would put Nick Briggs at the helm.
Yep.
Kind of interesting. The only thing I'd be worried about with Nick Briggs at the helm is too many aliens being voiced by him. Because we already have that, and we wish he would let some other people have a chance. He doesn't have to go away entirely, just let other people have a chance.
Mm-hmm. Nick Briggs as producer and Stephen Moffat as the aliens?
No, just, let other people that might have talents at doing voice acting be able to do some monsters. Let's get some, let's try some new talent.
Yeah.
It does remind me of classic Star Trek, in which every alien probe or omnipotent being...
voiced by Scotty.
Yeah, was voiced by James Doohan. And I never realized it when I first watched the show, but I think when they came out with the graphically augmented versions, the HD versions, and I was rewatching them, I'm like, wow, that's Scotty. That's Scotty. That's Scotty.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with the animated series. All the aliens are voiced by Scotty. It's even more obvious there because, everybody was voice acting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's also, I think pretty much everyone on the original crew had two characters in that show anyway, but yeah, Scotty always gets a lot of characters.
Nimoy may have had two. Shatner did not, unless you're talking about when he was playing his evil half.
Oh, okay. I know Uhura had I think an assistant that was played by herself.
In the animated series?
Yeah.
In the animated series, no, it wasn't Uhura that had it. It was Majel Barrett. Had Lieutenant Emress, the Kaishan. That was basically, and that was the thing. Any default female voice that they needed was always Majel Barrett. Kind of helps to sleep with the creator of the show. Just saying.
A little bit,
I guess. Anywho.
Majel Barrett, of course, would go on to become Majel Barrett Roddenberry, who was the voice of the computer in like pretty much all later versions. Actually, every Federation computer up until now has been voiced by Majel Barrett Roddenberry. Every single one. From the original series computer, through the movie Enterprise computers, through the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine computers, Voyager. Actually, I don't think the computer from Star Trek Enterprise had a voice because it was, too far back there.
Mm-hmm.
But all the other
Right.
ones, including the ones in the reboot J.J. Abrams movies, were all voiced by her. But she died months after making Into Darkness.
Oh.
I'm just picturing if she was still alive and still acting and she like acted in, I could just see her like acting alongside, appearing in Doctor Who one time. The doctor be like, "Your voice is familiar. I thought I had a computer that sounded like you once."
I still think we should get John Leeson in a actual character role on the show.
Yes. So many of the other, makeup actors and voice actors have had on-screen roles now.
Make him the one-shot companion for an episode, not the full-on, traveling in the TARDIS, but the person that's traveling around with the doctor with a scene. And just every now and then he'd do something that sounded very K9, and you have the doctor looking at him.
Have him play like a scientist or something. Be like,
that would be awesome. Have him be like the new
Yeah.
scientific advisor for UNIT. Watch that blow the doctor's mind away.
yeah.
I would say
Okay.
affirmative.
Now that we've been
All right.
way off topic for a while.
Actually,
All right.
I've been keeping a track of the time, looking for filling up the normal gap that we would have had for an opinion piece, because nobody has anything in particular that was going to be our, quote, featured article, so we filled it with inane chatter. So, moving on now to our feature presentation. Summary. Who's going to do the summary? Anybody? Guess it's me.
But I believe I did it last week, so go ahead.
All right. Did you do it last week?
Pretty sure I did. Didn't I?
That would have been closing time. Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, I did it. That was me. I did that thing.
All right. And since Bill's not volunteering and Tim's not volunteering, I guess that means it's me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, this is kind of an odd episode of Doctor Who,
Extremely
featuring a doctor that I don't remember being on the roles of the Doctor. But this one apparently likes working with the military, as he does seem to have a very large list of companions with him. And a completely new TARDIS from the looks of it. This one's not much for the bigger on the inside.
No,
feel
it
of it.
isn't.
Yeah, I think it's like the exact same size on both
It's
inside and out.
just as big on the outside, yeah. So anyway, they receive a distress call and bring the TARDIS to a planet where they discover had been taken over by the Doctor's old nemesis, the Cybermen. This is a cause of alarm because, the Cybermen taking over whole worlds is very dangerous. So they basically form a think tank onto how to deal with this. Meanwhile, the chief companion, a fellow by the name of Riker, is pondering his future and wondering if he should leave the TARDIS crew. This is backed up by a relative newcomer by the name of Shelby, who basically is gunning for his place. All this is offset by the fact that she basically keeps undermining his authority and doing stuff without asking first, which generally tends to cheese him off. And one point proves to be more able as in a poker game manages to call a bluff he was making that completely bewildered our Adric XP, Wesley, leaving him feeling miserable. All this is put to a thought as they encounter, I guess you could call it a cyber cube. Would you say that was that would be an appropriate name?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So they encounter this cyber cube, and it basically calls out the Doctor by name, telling him that he will surrender to them or they will destroy the TARDIS. This kind of leads to a moment of FU as a fight therefore ensues. This part of this TARDIS was fairly well armed, all things considered.
Which is also
But
rather unusual, yeah.
Kind
Battle
of pointless
TARDIS.
though. Kind of pointless though against the Cybermen as they knock out the TARDIS shields.
Must be an early battle TARDIS before the Time War.
Possibly.
But they first managed to get away. The Doctor hides the TARDIS inside a nebula. And they stay there for a bit while they ponder what to do next. The Doctor ponders overnight and talks to Guinan, who apparently seems to be another regeneration of River's song, as she seems to have the backing to give him the choice of what needs to be done. Anyway, eventually the Cybermen manage to smoke out the TARDIS, knock out its shields again, and this time the Cybermen transport aboard. I don't remember the Cybermen having a transmat, but considering the fact that they'd attacked transmat bases before, probably would have been able to pilfer the technology.
Very easily, yes.
Anyway, they grab the Doctor and then transfer back to the ship, leaving the companions running the TARDIS. Riker, in particular, immediately wants to go onto the cyber ship and stop them and get him back, but is stymied because of the fact that somebody has to stay with the TARDIS. Reluctantly, he appoints Shelby and a team to go over, and they begin exploring the cyber cube, finding many horrors on the way. Eventually, they come across the Doctor, who has been cyber converted to these new half-organic Cybermen. Overwhelmed, they're forced to flee, and this new cyber Doctor confronts Riker, who gives the order to fire on the cyber ship. Unfortunately, this does not go well, and the ship is disabled. The TARDIS is disabled for a bit. They tried a couple of techniques they had planned, but unfortunately, the fact that the Doctor knew about them beforehand meant that they were, at the end, futile. This leads Riker to mope around for a bit while the Cybermen decide to go off and take out, or basically convert the rest of humanity. The humans gather their forces at a star about 8 light years from Earth called Wolf 359. 40 of the Galactic Federation starships engage the Cybermen, and as far as I'm aware, only one survives. It is an absolute slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
Including a few of the other ships that Riker had been thinking of leaving the TARDIS for. They get back underway and begin pursuing as the cyber cube heads straight for Earth. Riker talks once again to our version of River's song, who encourages him to be him and to give up on the Doctor for now. And thus, Riker comes up with a whole new bunch of strategies, including splitting the TARDIS into 2 separate ships, a new feature we'd never seen before, and using them to distract the Cybermen long enough to beam a small team aboard and grab back the Doctor. They take him down to the infirmary and start trying to undo what the Cybermen did to him. And eventually, with the help of Data, one of the companions who I refer to as the 2.0 version of Chameleon, managed to break through to the Doctor on the inside, who gives them a clue on how to shut down the Cybermen, sending them into a recharge cycle, which overloads their ship and blows it up. Thus, without the connection to the Siberiad, as it were, they're able to start dismantling to unconvert the Doctor. And life goes on as before, with Riker deciding to stay on board. So, this has to be one of the most unusual episodes of Doctor Who I've ever seen.
Yeah, it seems like almost a completely different show at this point.
It does. But let's go through with our normal what we liked, what we disliked, scenes that we liked, scenes that we disliked. And so, Matt, what did you like?
Oh, what do I like? Well, I've mentioned them before. I might as well mention them again. I definitely like the new design for the Cybermen at this point. It's a very interesting look for them.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
Hmm.
And that's basically they're giving up their trademark silver for these flat black. And
also, they all looked a bit too distinguished.
True, they actually looked a little more different from version to version, whereas the previous Cybermen were all very similar.
Yeah, they looked kind of ad hoc. Although, in retrospect, if you look at episode like Nightmare in Silver, where they have cyber mites, it could be that you're seeing a group of Cybermen that were only basically built off of from cyber mites.
Or something similar, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
full body
look,
conversion hasn't actually happened yet.
As you know, this is kind of a little different because this was we're coming off the David Banks era with this. So
yeah,
people seeing this were used to cyber cheese.
Mm-hmm. Well, also even the companions were noting that this was kind of unusual for the Cybermen as well.
Mm-hmm. This was definitely a major departure for him, but yeah, I missed the trademark silver and metalled faces.
To some degree, and they would probably go back to that pretty quickly too, actually.
All right, Bill, what did you like about this?
Trying to focus on one aspect.
Remember, this is the general one, not the scenes.
Yeah, I know. I mean an aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. A little out of it today, I think, honestly, but I guess the stakes, the suspense. You really feel like you don't know what's going to happen with the Doctor. Is he going to be a Cyberman? Is he going to be is he just going to regenerate? Is he going to get out of it? It's a high stakes episode. A lot going on. A lot of suspense.
All right, Tim, what did you like?
In general, I really liked this new companion Riker. and it dealt with his place in the history of time, as it were, and his self-awareness of what he's doing and where his place is.
He's a bit of a rascally fellow, to be honest.
I think that just makes him more appealing. He to quote someone who once said it, he keeps it real.
Yeah.
I would
Mind
also
you,
add that. Go ahead.
I was going to say that sometimes that does get him into trouble. I remember another episode from this era where the TARDIS arrives on a planet and he picks up this game, and the game turns out to be a method of mind control that nearly destroys everybody.
I will
Also,
say that
he does seem to have Kirk syndrome. The Doctor's off saving the universe,
he does
and he's
seem to
off
have a
sleeping
bit
with
of a
everything that moves.
offset. He does seem to do things at least with good intentions in mind.
Oh yeah, I mean he is at the end a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He does also play a mean trombone.
Hey, I'm a big trombone fan.
What I liked, I really liked the music in this.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going from the previous era of synths and obviously keyboard to this, which was very big, very dramatic, very large sound. It's obviously where they got the idea to use a full orchestra for the movie in '96.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what didn't you like? Matt, you're up.
Back to me. In general, you were mentioning how ad hoc the Cybermen look. To me, that kind of strikes me in a kind of horror way because I've seen some horror movies that kind of seem somewhat inspired by some of these designs, or maybe even helped to inspire these designs to begin with. But I have to say that a few of the sets here and there, not always, but here and there, they seemed a little samey and makeshift. Like they had to very quickly put it together.
Yeah, I do hear that got better as this era progressed, but yeah, obviously there were some sets that were obvious redresses. I mean,
or just
obvious
the same room
redresses.
done from a different angle.
That's a redress.
Mm-hmm.
A redress set, if you go into a set and you move a plant, it's considered a redressed set.
That's what they did in the 60s.
Yeah.
Hey, you're in a new office. We moved a plant.
Normally, since like the 80s up, a redress set will usually be a little more than that. At the same time, you have to look at how many American TV series have filmed at the same national park in California.
Yeah. How many of them use the
feature
Batman
the same
cave?
set of rocks? Yeah.
That stuff gets crazy after a while. It's like almost everyone's used it.
Yep. All right. So, Bill, what didn't you like?
Did I not? I'm gonna say the wannabe companion Shelby. I mean, sometimes I liked her, but sometimes she just feels like she's trying too hard to take over the TARDIS on her own. Even when she does do things right, even the others is kind of skeptical. She's a little power hungry, like she might be a tool of the master in disguise or something.
A little bit.
Too ambitious. Yeah.
Too ambitious, too disregarding of things. Like her own ambition comes ahead of the safety of the crew going off on their own and such. Like almost as if she might be almost working for the Cybermen, but not quite.
Yeah, if they had spun it slightly different, so that she was like, "Oh, the Cybermen killed my family,"
That might have made a little more sense.
So
Yeah.
Right.
I'm more driven to do this because I have a personal stake in it. That would have made her ambition a little more tolerable, I think. Still wrong, but it would be more understandable. What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Other than just
Would
ambition
smooth
for
out some of the
ambition's
rush
sake.
edges.
Yeah. All right,
Ambition,
Tim.
and not even like when they transmatted down to the planet. It was like not even just ambition, just disregarding safety for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But the scenario you spun would have definitely smoothed out the rough edges there.
A little bit, yes.
All right, Tim. What didn't you like in general?
In general, I didn't like how this abandoned the Doctor's pacifistic nature, and not only does he have a gun, but he's armed the TARDIS with all these sorts of lasers and
Damn it,
cannons,
Tim.
and
Stole mine.
again, oh man.
It's not
Yeah,
food.
it is a horribly different Doctor we see here. Perhaps it's a little closer to the Warrior as seen by John Hurt's War Doctor at this point. Maybe
Yeah.
we're seeing it a little too close to the Time War, to the fact that the Doctor actually feels the need to arm himself and his ship.
Almost kind of a little Americanized, if you will.
Almost. I mean, he's still a British man. He still drinks tea.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Earl Grey, as I recall.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with Earl Grey, although don't make an iced tea out of it, let me tell you.
Good to know.
I speak from experience. Ew.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It shows you how desperate a tea fiend I am, by the way. Out of tea, only got Earl Grey.
I'll give it a try.
Anyway. But yeah, he's a horribly violent. I mean, and if you look at it, it is a natural evolution off the Doctor that we've seen in a lot of the '80s stuff, especially the Soward era. I mean, yes, they kind of got rid of it, but it looks like they reversed that reversal, maybe. What I don't like. Now I've got to think for a moment because I had mine planned and Tim stole it.
Yeah.
Perhaps in these I should go last always, because I keep stealing things.
Yes, but then you have to be the one telling people it's their turn to go.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay, what I didn't like. See, we've mentioned the sets.
Mm-hmm.
Mentioned violence.
Yeah, a very different feel to this show.
Mentioned Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the new catchphrase?
I don't know. I've never been liking for the Cybermen to have a catchphrase.
Well, I
mean, that was my. Oh well, every Doctor has their catchphrase. So this one uses "make it so." I guess I'm going to build off Tim, and I guess I can say I didn't like the whole militaristic feel on it.
Mm-hmm.
This one really hit me as kind of unit in the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit off. That was a little bit off-putting to me. So, scenes that you liked.
Going to me again, eh?
Yes.
Oh.
We're going quickly, you can tell, because we're a person down.
Yeah, a little bit. So many actually really good ones too. I think we'll go with the very quick glimpse of the Doctor when we first see that the Cybermen are doing something to him. Like where they're trying to get on board to try and find and save him, and all of a sudden
And you just see him at the end of the hall turning towards them.
yeah, and all of a sudden you see there's a little bit of attachments to the side of his head, and they're just like, oh, what the heck, and try to rescue him, but they have to pull back because they're outnumbered.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty good, intense little moment there.
All right. That is probably one of the more iconic scenes. Bill, how about you?
But I'm spacing too much. What scene did you pick? Just to make sure I don't say the same thing.
The one where
I'm sorry, I'm terrible.
The one where they see the doctor at the end of the hall, and they can't
Got you.
quite save him.
Yes. See, I'm glad I asked then.
Are you okay? Do you need caffeine?
I think I might. I only had 1 cup of coffee today, and then I walked home, which I'm not used to doing. So I.
Grab a soda or something, dude.
Right.
We actually did try to caffeinate Erin to get her able to join us, but that failed.
Right.
Probably caused her
Caffeination
crashing
attempt.
harder. Depends upon the person.
I'm going to go with the scene fairly early on, where the Doctor is trying to motivate Riker to, go off of the TARDIS and make a name for himself. Try to push him toward the career he seems to want. Is inspiring a bit there.
I actually see that scene's a bit odd myself. I mean, how often do you see the Doctor basically saying, "Go on, get out of here"?
True, but he has a lot more companions than normal, so it's probably not as big of a thing, to lose one. It's not like where he's gonna mope around for months or anything.
We've never seen a companion list that was in the 4 digits before.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tim, your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is the one where the Cyber Doctor is wandering around the TARDIS, and he walks up to...
Can we just call him Mr. Clever?
Mr.
That it is kind of the prototype for Mr. Clever.
A little bit.
Is walking up, walks up to what I believe is a Sontaran, and he says, "Your race will become Cyber 2." And the Sontaran says, "I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say to me bounces off and sticks to you."
Not quite in those terms, but something like that.
Yeah, that's
right.
the vibe I got.
It is nice to see the Doctor with alien companions, though, because,
Mhm.
Yeah.
especially since apparently in New Who, every companion he has to be human.
Lately, yeah.
Has to be modern day human.
Well, think about it. Rose, Martha, even Jack's human, just a human from the future. So Rose, Mickey, Jack, Martha.
Well, there are the occasional alien companion. He takes them on one episode, does a few things with them off screen, and then plants them in Victorian London.
Apparently.
You mean that?
Like,
yeah, but I don't know.
Vastra knows the Doctor well enough to imply that she was his companion for at least a fair amount of time, at least a few adventures worth, rather than just Good Man Goes to War. But
yeah, but they're not televised adventures.
That's what I'm saying. It's all it has to be off screen because she's an alien.
Those never hit me. Those never hit me more as being lackeys.
Kinda, yeah.
Like the Doctor and his henchmen, the Doctor and the Stooges, really.
Yeah.
Because other than Name of the Doctor, I don't think we've seen them ever travel in the TARDIS.
No, can't say we have.
No, because I think Good Man Goes to War. They just show up with him, and the traveling is off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's implied that they traveled in the TARDIS, but you don't actually see them inside it.
Yeah, you never see them just hop from adventure to adventure in the TARDIS.
Right.
And that is kind of the essence of what makes
the fact that
But here, and
why does the Doctor have us on Taran as a companion anyway?
Well, this is a military kind of group that he's working with now, so...
or are you
a
referring to
strategist.
Strax?
I think he's referring to the one in this episode.
Okay, I'm just saying that either way, it's at least nice to see. I mean, the 80s, you had Nyssa, who was an alien. You had Adric, who was an alien. You had Turlo, who was an alien.
Although even in this group, it really feels like there should be more aliens.
Probably should be.
Maybe they spent all the budget on the TARDIS set and couldn't afford any aliens.
It is a fairly nice set. I do miss
also,
the central
you have
console.
to have the Sontaran makeup like every day.
I do miss the central console. Cheap. On the other hand, there are consoles everywhere.
That too, and they all light up and activate and stuff.
Well, the TARDIS console tends to light up and activate anyway, but these were all those
all kinds of little ones everywhere.
Pretty much cutting edge flat screen displays. So, as Capaldi says, a modern age, everything's all this swiping. You miss a good push button. Anyway, where were we? We kind of tangented there.
A little bit.
We have time.
I believe
I think his best scene. Oh, we just finished Tim's best scene.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have a few.
There are definitely a few in this one, yes.
And as I'm last, I can pretty much mention all of them. The first one I think I've noticed is that the very end of the first part.
I was trying to lean away from that.
Why were you leaning away from that?
Because I knew someone else was going to have it.
Well, here we are at the end of it, and we're already here. So, the "Your life as it has been is over" scene, where you just see Riker staring in horror, because it's his actual first view of the Mr. Clever Doctor. And what's messed up is you see aspects of the Doctor's personality, and it just increases Riker's horror as he's forced to open fire on him. It's a good scene. A second favorite scene is there's a scene later on where River, in her Guinan disguise, talks to Riker about giving up on the Doctor, and asked what the Doctor means to her. She says that we have a relationship that goes beyond friendship and beyond family. It is such a River song moment. It really is. But it's one of the more benevolent ones. It's not the over the top "hello, sweetie" moments.
Yeah.
It's one of those I can stomach. Let me put it this way.
And then I like. Can we say that about River?
And then there's the final scene I'm going to list as one of my favorites is when you've got Chameleon 2.0 basically hacking the cyber network, and you actually see the Doctor come through. You can almost tell when that transition occurs, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that I've killed a little more time, scenes you don't like. Matt, you're up.
Oh, scenes I don't like.
Oh, wait. I'll give you more time to think, because there was another scene I liked.
Okay.
The ship graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
Where you just see them enter Wolf 359, and you just see all that wreckage, and it's just, they pretty much stare at it at mute horror. So, and it is, you can just imagine. I believe all the wikis and stuff listed as having 11,000 people that died in that battle.
I think so, yeah.
Which gives them a pretty sizable death total.
Especially for just one episode.
I don't think we've ever heard Dalek death totals that have hit 5 digits.
I don't know. I think in the Time War they were destroying planets, so I'm pretty sure they did. We just
Yeah,
didn't
but
see.
you never
We didn't hear
actually
the
see that.
totals.
I was about to take it back though, because you do see the scene in Parting of the Ways where they bomb the Earth, and they pretty much blow holes in continents. So yeah, those death tolls had to be in the millions.
And then there's how. I mean, we don't really know how many they took off in Journey's End for their extermination camps either.
True.
I just also happen to think there's also a Dalek invasion of Earth. There's got to be a
True, but
sizable
we don't know how many.
amount, but they don't really
Yeah.
mention
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
We don't really see that though. Anyway. So Matt?
Oh, bad moment. I think the one
I
that
know
kind of sticks out to me is it's one where the new gal's trying to push a little too hard again. She wanted to stay with what was it, Data, and
Yeah.
keep working on some more weapons to fight the Cybermen with, and it's just kind of a little silly.
We don't need you falling asleep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It seems
She's just being remarkably too stubborn there.
Mm-hmm. Especially with no real background that would actually be pushing her to act like that.
All right, Bill?
I'm going to go with the whole of naming where the battle is and everything. The whole Wolf 359, like they're trying to do something with the Bad Wolf story arc and lead into it, but they're really not actually leading up to it in any way. Just randomly slapping a name onto things, and it just feels out of place.
To be honest, Bill, I do have to call your bluff on that one. That was literally them looking at astronomical star charts and going, okay, we need a location that's close to Earth, but not too close. And actually looking, Wolf 359 is an actual star. It is a red dwarf approximately 8 light years from here.
Then why did they refer to it as a planet in the Wolf system? Like they specifically say the Wolf system later on, as though it was the 359th planet in that system.
I actually did not catch that.
I'm like, unless they just screwed up and they should have been calling it the Wolf 359 system.
They should have, because
possible.
the name of the star is Wolf 359 or Wolf 359.
So it might have been a slip.
It is an actual astronomical
Wow,
thing. You can only see it
real science in Doctor Who? Is that allowed?
Once in a while.
once in a while. Yes, they do occasionally name stars and stuff that actually exist. So, but
yes, but I'm sure in Doctor Who, the dog star has a planet filled with dog people.
would have been worse. They could have put it on Pluto.
Pluto will always be a planet to me.
No, I meant filled with dogs, with dog people.
Pluto will always be a planet filled with dog people to me.
Okay.
By the way, I think it was reinstated as a planet recently, unless they turned it around again.
I don't know. I thought they were still calling it a dwarf
I
planet.
haven't heard anything about that.
I know they're reassessing it.
Because who's to say what the size of a
I'm pretty
planet's
sure
going to be
part of the
anyway?
deal was they were like, if we call Pluto a planet, we have to call these 4 or 5 other things planets too.
Yeah, well, the Pluto reassessment is coming based off of astronomical images they got from a probe they sent to Ceres. Who here knows what Ceres is? It is the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt.
Oh, okay. Right.
And it is a dwarf planet by their current astronomical tables, but they've discovered that the Ceres, remarkably for being in the asteroid belt, is actually spherical and has an atmosphere.
No.
So that's causing them to
we have a spherical asteroid with an atmosphere. Is it filled with gold?
We don't know yet.
We have to dig.
But The fact is that I know they think they've seen water reflections on it, so that's causing them to reassess qualifications for planethood. And if so, that could put Pluto back on the planet side, as opposed to dwarf planet. Although every time they refer to Pluto as a dwarf planet, being an anime fan, I can just my brain goes to imagining a midget sailor Pluto. I think I broke Bill. And all the rest of the sailors looking down at her as she's like, help.
This psychotic little chibi thing.
Yeah, chibi. Yeah, all of them looking down at a chibi Pluto. It's not fun. It's not. It's wrong. Anyway, so yes,
that
Wolf
Bill's hamster is back
359
in the
is an
wheel.
actual star. It is a small star. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's there. So I think this was, because considering this was 20 years prior to Bad Wolf, I'm pretty sure that wasn't in their minds.
It's just very happenstance.
Yep. Now, if it had been, Wolf something that translated to bad, I would have gone with you on that, Bill, but...
Yeah.
All right, Tim.
It was like Wolf 214.
All right. Well, my least favorite scene was the very end, because it seemed a bit abrupt. Because, okay, so they tricked the Cybermen into going to sleep, and I'm thinking, okay, that gives us time to come up with a plan, and oh wait, we don't need to come up with a plan because sleeping is toxic to the Cybermen, apparently, because it blows them all up.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
Yeah,
it would have been different if they hadn't deliberately stated that all of their power emissions had dropped. If they had done something and all the Cybermen had basically gone into a hibernation cycle with all their power amped up and it just building up to a detonation, that I could have bought.
Yeah, that would have been a little more
But they specifically state that the power emissions dropped to minimum. So the whole sudden self-destruct didn't make any sense to me.
And that whole sleep, I feel like should have been some sort of safeguards where if all of the Cybermen went to sleep, the Cyber leader would awaken and know to wake someone up or something.
Depends upon how they're programmed, and it seems like this group wasn't programmed for that.
No cyber, or I guess the doctor was supposed to be the new cyber controller, and taking him away
ruined the controller
everything.
away already.
So they were operating on minimum. You think one of them would have been upgraded, but maybe that wasn't part of the show concept yet. Either way,
I guess they didn't have Battlefield promotions yet.
Yeah, suddenly there was, but yeah, they went from being unconscious and no power to self-destruct awfully quick.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree with you on that, Tim. So, scene I didn't like. I think it would have had to be the elevator scene, the lift scene. Between Riker and Shelby, the "you're in my way."
Yeah, Shelby seems to just kind of rub us the wrong way at certain points.
Yeah, she's very abrasive. And while you can do abrasive, you need to have an underlying heart of gold, and Shelby didn't really seem to have that. It's possible that if she hadn't decided to leave at the end of this episode and had continued on, we could have seen more of a heart of gold.
But yeah, it seems like they might have cut that in order to keep enough
time.
You
keep saying Heart of Gold, and I just watched all of Firefly Season 1 last night. And I just my brain just keeps flashing back to the episode Heart of Gold every time you say that.
See, I hear Heart of Gold and I think Hitchhiker's Guide, but that might be me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, it all depends on what's fresh on your mind.
I'm actually referencing a TV trope called Jerk with a Heart of Gold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking that if you had a heart of gold, that would be deadly to Cybermen.
This is true.
Yeah,
this
except I'm going to rip my heart out and throw it at the Cybermen.
No, but
Yeah, that's
what
kamikaze
what happens
motion.
if you plug a cyber conversion machine into a gold heart?
You'd kill the cyber conversion machine, maybe? No, I don't think it'd
know.
work that way.
I'm thinking it might result in a huge explosion.
It would definitely backfire with some implants, though.
Okay. So, I think that wraps it up for scenes we don't like. Was there any other points that anyone wanted to make? Because we got time.
I think we talked about all the really big stuff. Covered most of it for the major part, at least.
All right. So that takes us to final thoughts.
So, over to me again then.
Yeah.
While this was very different from your normal Doctor Who fare, I will say that for what it was trying to be, it was a very interesting attempt, and I think it worked out pretty well for the most part. This particular story seemed pretty good, actually. In retrospect, of course, because I don't think they really explained it all that well originally, but when you combine it with some of the newer stuff, it starts to make more and more sense.
All right. Bill?
It's a good episode. I'd say the Cybermen are very threatening for once. There's a lot of times where they aren't. I'd say they're pretty threatening here. It is kind of a shame to see a unit episode at a time when Nicholas Courtney was around, but not in the episode. No Brigadier for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then
one might say that the Doctor himself is in that role.
Kind of.
Yeah. And then there is the fact that I am glad that this era happens to have a lot of Sherlock Holmes and such references, and I feel like Doctor Who has had enough of that. So I'm glad that was kept out of this special.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tim?
I would say that overall, this was a very bold attempt to go in a new direction, and I just hope that in the future they'll revisit this pathway, so to speak. So I'm gonna say I really liked this episode, despite the Doctor and the TARDIS being so wildly out of character. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. So, my final thoughts. I'm not really quite thrilled with the direction this took. But other than that, the acting is unbelievably good. For the era it was written, the writing is fairly good. Some of the sets were a little bit obviously redressy.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the production values on those sets were still pretty darn high.
Yeah.
And there's not really that much to complain about other than the direction. So I would have to say it is fairly good.
Before we go any farther, Matt, want to load up that second image that I had sent you before the cast?
Sure. There it is.
Yes,
April
ladies
Fools,
and gentlemen.
everyone.
Yes, April Fools. Yes, we are aware we are talking about Star Trek The Next Generation.
We are.
No.
Hope everyone out there enjoyed that. We had no idea we were going to be able to go this far with it.
Yeah,
we did pretty
we didn't
well.
even know if we were going to
was
make it
not
past the
scripted.
summary.
Yeah, we weren't sure.
This was not scripted at all.
We literally had this plan to break when one of us actually broke down, and we managed to get through to ratings
There's
without
a few times
breaking
I had to
down.
bite my hand. I'm glad we don't do this live on camera.
I mean, we did have laughs, but they were laughs associated with what we were saying separately from this. So,
Yeah.
that aside, Best of Both Worlds is probably one of the best TNG episodes out there. That's arguable, but that's my opinion. So,
I've always
as a
been kind of
Star
interested in
Trek,
seeing it, so
yeah,
it's
as
a
a
good
Star Trek
excuse.
person, I really recommend watching that. So, wow. We still have about 30 minutes to kill.
Yeah. I think we wanted to talk a bit about the relationship between the Borg and the Cybermen at this point.
Just a little bit, at least.
It's
Yes.
kind of interesting because, of course, the Cybermen are first.
The summer were definitely first by
Yeah.
about
Starting,
20 years.
I think the same year that Star Trek actually aired was the first appearance of the Cybermen.
Just about, yeah.
November of '66 was the Cybermen. I think Star Trek made it on screen in '67, right? Or no, or was it '66?
It was either 66 or 67. I think it was 66 to 69 was the original series.
Okay.
So, because it was off by the 70s.
That means the next movie is supposed to show next year, because I don't think they've even started filming yet, have they? Because it's supposed to be a 50th anniversary movie.
Sorta.
I think they have started working on it. I don't know if they've started filming, but they're close to the filming level of production.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
From
sure.
what I
Well,
understand.
I'm pretty sure
They're in the
advanced.
advanced script / pre-production, and yes, the original run of the original series started September 8th, 1966. So you literally had 2 months of Star Trek before the Cybermen made their first appearance on Doctor Who.
So I think Romulans might have been mentioned, but I don't think Klingons had been on screen yet. Klingons might have been mentioned,
No, Klingons would have been mentioned.
but I don't think they would have shown up on screen yet.
Yes, they have.
They have?
They would have, yes. The very
'Cause I
first
thought
Klingon.
Romulans were on screen before Klingons.
No.
No. Klingons were on before
No.
Romulans, I think.
'Cause I thought before the Klingons showed up, there was the one with the Sarek as a Romulan.
I do not believe you are right, Bill.
We might be friends.
Okay. So, looking this up, Balance of Terror, the Romulans did appear first. December 15th, 1966.
So that's still after the Cybermen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Where's the one I'm looking for?
I'm trying to remember which one was the first Klingons, honestly. Was it the one on the on that pacifist world that turned out to be gods, or was it something before that?
No, there is actually it is on the pacifist world. I'm trying to remember the name of that one.
Just a lot of worlds in Star Trek TOS where they turn out to be gods.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's an easier way of doing this. All right. So the first episode was Errand of Mercy, 1967 for the Klingons. Errand of Mercy was March 23rd. So the Romulans did show up, but they both showed up in the first season, but both showed up after the Cybermen, and after the Daleks. So both of the Doctor Who Big Two were on the air before the Star Trek Big Two showed up. But we are getting off topic again. So the Cybermen showed up first, and were developed well over the course of the 25 years of the original series. Well,
and they had lines such as "You will be assimilated" and "Resistance is useless."
You will become like us. You will be like us.
Yep.
So let's cut forward to what we were talking about here, the Next Generation. The Borg were originally supposed to pay a little earlier in the original series lineup. They were supposed to actually be the finale for season 1, not this particular episode. But their introductory episode was supposed to be at the end of season 1.
Did they first appear in the opening episode, or was it a different Q episode?
It was a different Q episode.
Okay.
Mind you, Q has made many repeated appearances over the course of the Next Generation. He was a pretty regular baddie.
Right.
Because, you know, he was fun because he was a he loved to show up and antagonize, and John Delancey is a great actor to show up. I believe it was in season 2, I think it was, where he showed up. Yes, the episode, ironically enough, is called Q Who. Second season, season 2, episode 16, where basically Q shows up. The Borg themselves were originally supposed to appear in the first season episode, The Neutral Zone, but they were not ready, and they had to kind of rush that episode, so they didn't get in there. Then there was a writer's strike for the first half of season 2. So Maurice Hurley could not actually put them in until the second half of season 2 when this came in. The Borg were originally written to be more insect-like, but because of various budget issues, they went with the more technological thing. And it is well known that some of the staff behind Star Trek The Next Generation were Doctor Who fans.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Okuda actually has a TARDIS somewhere in the cutaway diagram of the Enterprise D.
Yeah, there is somewhere. I've seen some of the images of that.
So it is logical, though not confirmed, to think that when they were working on this, they
were looking at what they were creating and kind of going, you know, maybe some of this might work.
Yeah. And they might have subconsciously drew on the Borg, or on the Cybermen to use for the Borg.
Mm-hmm.
It probably doesn't hurt that the star probably grew up on Cybermen. Well, actually, wait. How old? I don't even know how old he was at that time.
Who?
I know he hasn't aged since then, Patrick Stewart. I know he's the same age that he was in 1989.
Yeah, but Stewart wouldn't have been involved in the production team.
No, he wouldn't have been involved
in
the production.
But I mean, depending on how open of a thing it was, like he might have mentioned, you know, it might have been mentioned, but I don't know.
No, it wouldn't have been. That's not his style.
Yeah, it's not his main thing, at least not at the time.
Yeah, it was. This would have been Okuda. It might have been. It wasn't Roddenberry by this time. It might have been Berman, as not full head writer, but you know, working with the production team. And it might have been a couple of other people that worked there. But I know Okuda at least was a bit of a sci-fi buff because he liked Doctor Who, he liked Space Battleship Yamato, he liked a bunch of other stuff. So. He always had, and he's the one that's responsible for what's known as Okudograms, which are the little hidden things that were put into the set designs for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
It's why like I've mentioned before, there's a TARDIS in there. I believe there's a rubber duck also somewhere in the cutaway. The engineering displays say that the Enterprise D has a infinite improbability drive and a wave motion gun Although, of course, neither is actually used during the sets or during the show. They're just in there.
So
That's a bit of humor.
so that's why Scotty can always pull off those miraculous repairs. This repair is highly improbable, Captain.
Oh, just
We'll make
hit
it
the
so.
probability drive button already.
Yeah, it's but so it's possible that when the team actually sat down to start fleshing out the Borg, Okuda may have drawn on his memories of Doctor Who episodes that he had seen or read about. It's interesting to notice that a lot of what you see from the Borg seem to be like era of Cybermen from like Tomb. But that's interesting because Tomb hadn't actually been found when this aired.
Yeah, I bet.
Although, from what I understand, Tomb was very, very popular in the fan discussion circuit before it was actually found. It wasn't until it was found that some of its flaws were realized by more people.
Mm. Yeah, we did point out
Yeah,
those
but what I
flaws.
mean is that if it was drawn on, that Okuda would have had to have been drawn on the novelization, and not on the.
Or from people talking about an episode that they had watched 20 years plus earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not plus, yeah. Well, yeah, 20 some odd years.
He would have drawn on at least what was known by the fan base and was really popular stuff that kind of stayed around with the Cybermen. If he was indeed somewhat just opposed to borrowing Cyberman ideas for the Borg.
But either way, it's obvious that there were some aspects of the Borg that came from the Cybermen, including such phrases as "resistance is futile," the whole concept of assimilation, and the kind of the cybernetic horror feel of them were all very reminiscent of the Cybermen.
And while we wouldn't see it until the 80s, they did start showing occasionally unfinished cyber conversions, which does kind of sort of harken a little bit to the Borg feel. Just a little.
And of course, you get the series dying off after they've gone through and they've augmented the Borg a bunch of times, giving them nano probes and a few other things over the course of the run of the various Next Generation era series. And then New Who starts up. And while not right away, the Cybermen first start off as basically a modified version of their classic appearance, but one would have to note that they have, over the course of it, gained many Borg-like things, including nano-assimilation methods and a hive mind.
Hive mind and I was just thinking something else and now it just slipped my brain. Oh, upgrading.
Yeah. Those concepts started with the Borg and have moved to the Cybermen now. And of course, this was a culmination later in a comic book which had the Borg and the Cybermen meet each other. Didn't they wind up like cross assimilating each other in that, Bill?
That was kind of the shtick of just the beginning. They kind of, you see Borg with Cybermen bits and Cybermen with Borg bits, but that's, I think by the end of the first issue, the Cybermen have betrayed the Borg, and
because the Cybermen
it goes
do
on
that.
from there. Yeah. It's also not the best written piece Although it was nice to see Tom Baker cross over with Captain Kirk's crew.
Yeesh. So, they've had a long history. Basically, the Borg are pretty much the Star Trek version of the Cybermen at this point. And the Cybermen are the Doctor Who version of the Borg, yeah.
Yeah. And after Nightmare and Silver, the Cybermen have pretty much picked up everything that the Borg were working on while they were on their hiatus.
Including the ability to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, adapting, taking over the main character with a little piece you stick on his eye.
Yep.
Or glob onto the side of the face.
I'm pretty sure that when Neil Gaiman went down to write that, he might have inadvertently caught a Borg episode of Next Generation that influenced his writing.
Always possible.
Maybe this one.
Possibly this one. Possibly First Contact. I would actually argue for First Contact more than this. Because this one doesn't have nanoprobes, and First Contact was what introduced them.
Mm. They mention nanotech.
Yeah, but that's the first time you see like little tubulars come out of the Borg hands and actually stick people who quickly start acting like Borg.
Right.
That starts what starts the rapid assimilation. As opposed to we take you and forcibly assimilate you a la the Cybermen. And now, of course, the Cybermen have pretty much the same thing now.
To a degree.
I actually would like to see a well-written comic where the Borg and the Cybermen meet each other and try to cross-assimilate each other, because I'm pretty sure it would not be voluntary on either side's part.
Right. Oh, by the way, at the well, does anybody care if I give away a detail from the end of the assimilation crossover?
Nope.
I don't care.
The Doctor thinks he's fixed the timeline, prevented the Cybermen from crossing over, and then it's revealed that the reason the Borg are studying time travel technology in the first place is because of the Doctor, because they met him and want to have the same capability, and that of course leads into First Contact. Which probably gives you an indication of the general thought processes in the writing of it anyway.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
This is also the same comic where gold dust was used to defeat Cybus era, or probably Cyber Legion Cybermen, but still.
That was IDW, wasn't it?
Yes, that was. I think that was one of the last things IDW did with it, and from what I understand, IDW was not great with Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's probably why the IDW
Star Trek,
is no longer.
actually.
Yeah.
From what?
It might be why they're no longer associated with it. And this is, by the way, why when somebody brings up something from Doctor Who novels or comics, I have to take it with a grain of salt. Because while there are good stories in there, there is also horrific pieces of dreck in there.
My brain works like a wiki, so it's more, no matter how terrible the story is, it's canon and it sticks in there, unless it's directly contradicted by something else.
I believe Bill, for one of his articles recently, had me remind him of some TARDISes that came up in the Doctor Who novels, which I despise. Because what they did is the Doctor had a companion, and we're already hitting the I've lost my I've already lost my suspension of disbelief, because over the course of these stories she turns into a TARDIS. Yeah.
Like you do.
Maybe her parents had sex while they were traveling in the time vortex.
But she turns into a TARDIS. And then later on in her timeline, the Time Lords capture her and force her to mate with another TARDIS to produce a new generation of TARDISes.
What?
Like you do.
I'm not kidding. She was considered to be a Type 102 TARDIS. The Time Lords mated her with another TARDIS to produce the Type 103s. They later captured a Type 103 and forced her to mate with a different type of TARDIS to come out with the Type 105s. I'm sorry, but does this hit anyone else's squick levels?
Yeah, it's awkward.
That's to say the least. It's freaking awkward. Holy hell.
Yeah.
Sounds like Pokemon breeding a little bit.
Yeah, only with,
I didn't think the Time Lords were quite that bad.
with implied rape in there, so it squicks me out even more. This squicks me out more than Naked Doctor and Clara. And this is why my reaction
You
to that
actually
was
read the scene, so yeah, I can imagine it would be a.
no. You don't get to see it as a scene, although you do hear basically President Romana demanding the Doctor hand her over to them so they can do this.
Yeah.
But later, the Doctor's response is, "You can kiss my TARDIS," and travels off. But later on, the Time Lords do come out with these later edition TARDISes, so it is implied they did later capture her and force breed her, which, like I said, is kind of rape squicky. It bothers me. It bothers me that the Time Lords would do that, and it bothers me that the Doctor wouldn't have stopped it from happening.
Right.
So it's one of those things from the Doctor Who novels I like to try to avoid because it turns my stomach.
That ain't right. That ain't right at all. Anywho, it's about time.
It is about time, but that's, like I said, why, that plus some of the stuff that we hear about the later ideas of the Cartmel master plan with genetic looms and other such things that make me kind of not pay attention to the novel setups. The Big Finish audios I will pay attention to more, as a lot of the people that have written the Big Finish audios also have gone on to work on the New Who. People, like Nick Briggs. So they tend to be a little more less obscene in some of the stuff they do. And mind you, there's some horrible stuff in extended canon for Star Trek, too. Some of the novels that were written, some of them are absolutely wonderful, and some of them are horrible. Because, Paramount didn't care that much as long as it didn't conflict with anything they had written. Okay, so that's the end of that. I hope you enjoyed our little April Fool's joke.
I know I did.
Are we getting ratings in there, would you say, or?
I don't think we really need to rate it. It is not a Doctor Who, and it's not there, so I don't think we need to really rate this particular episode. I'm pretty sure that on behalf of most of us, I can say that it is something that if you are even remotely interested in Star Trek, is a good watch.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that we were complaining about was looking at it through terms of Doctor Who and looking at it from the Star Trek perspective.
Yeah, there were a lot of there was a lot of devil advocate complaints there. I don't think any of us were really complaining that Star Trek had military in it.
Yeah.
No. No, all of that was all of that was us, kayfabing it. So for Star Trek, this is probably some of the best there is, save for some of the movies. If you really want to start Star Trek on a high note, I would say First Contact is the way to go. But this is a great lead up into First Contact.
First Contact is my favorite Star Trek movie.
It is, and the thing is, part of First Contact is dealing with the fallout from these two episodes.
Yeah.
I should also mention that the episode immediately following this actually is considered an unofficial part 3 of this story, as it deals with a lot of Picard's emotional fallout from this.
That's good, because I was gonna say, I'm assuming he didn't just become fine and then not
No,
show any reaction until
he
the
actually
movie.
takes a leave and contemplates quitting Starfleet. Because of just the sheer trauma he had from this. He goes back to his family vineyard in Paris, and if you don't mind spoilers, his brother eventually knocks some sense into him, quite literally.
Yeah.
His brother, by the way, is a real son of a bitch, so
Yeah.
real bit of an asshole. But that also starts a plot line that eventually gets resolved in Star Trek Generations. So
Generations.
Generations would be a mediocre episode if it wasn't for Brett Spiner's acting.
Movie.
But anyway, this is a good start. If you don't, the first episode of Next Generation's a little bit hokey, but picking up here, this is where Star Trek: The Next Generation started to get really, really good.
Gotcha.
And it continued to be really, really good through the rest of the Next Generation, and continued on with DS9. DS9 had a bit of a rocky start too, but I think it found its footing by season 2 or early season 3. So I'm going to say it with that. This is a good start. This is a good startup point. If you watch these episodes and then continue onward. And that's all I'm gonna. That's all.
You don't really need to know any of the crew to go into this episode either.
Nope.
Yeah, you gotta figure them out pretty quickly.
That's all
Right,
I have to say about that.
If you enjoy listening to us when we're not talking about Star Trek, please consider subscribing to us on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixcloud as an Unearthly podcast. You can also like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, which I highly recommend, because over the next within the next 7 days, we will have a special announcement regarding our 100th episode special coming during that time period. And of course, don't forget to join us next week, as we, since we are now done with Cybermen, we will be starting with Terry Nation's The Daleks at our normal time. So there will be 2 episodes within the next 7 days, as long as you keep an eye out. And of course, if you want to help us improve the show, feel free to stop by patreon.com/unearthlypodcast and see if you want to, I'm not sure what the verb is for that sentence, but you know what I'm talking about. Make it so. Yeah, support works. Not sure if that's still 2 words, but anyway.
Exterminate.
Yes, exterminate. If you want to exterminate.
That's not a word we want to put with us following it.
Exterminate the feed.
And on that bombshell, we will go. We'll be back at this time next week, where we start our massive viewing of every single Dalek serial that's ever been done.
Which means that we'll be reviewing
Our brains will be
31 episodes in a span of a month. And then what's that? A 6-parter after that, and then a 7-parter. So yeah,
a lot.
Yes. We have a lot to watch within the next 2 months.
Or listen to, as the case for some of it.
Yep.
Because it's
see you all next time.